Oh God, why hast thou cast off other Joe? His mind is too feeble to understand the birth of the Antichrist. For your wife will give birth. The power of the Lord will hit this world. And when it does arrive in this world, the gates of hell, the cocks of hell shall open up for the cocks of the Antichrist, Joe. And that's why you don't understand. Your feeble mind can't handle the girth of the Lord's message. For the Lord will soon return to the earth in the form of a baby. And
The Fires of Heaven is book 5 in the Wheel of Time. This feels like the most different of the entries so far, because so far all 4 books prior to this kind of feel self-contained, and it's all part of one big larger story arc. Kind of self-contained in their own little bubble. They have a different unique groupings for each one to help distinguish it. But for this one, this really feels like an extension of book 4. It's the same groupings, but just more of it, just more of what we already got. And this has both pros and cons in my opinion. So The Fires of Heaven picks up right where book 4 leaves off, and everyone's in Rodine. And the beginning section I really like. Like, once again, I never have a problem with Jordan's beginnings. Like, I think he knows how to really do a good beginning. In terms of Rand and company, so this is Rand, Moiraine, Mat, Egwene, Lan, and all the Aiel, and it's kind of them trying to pick up the trail of Couladin, who is the Shido clan chief, I guess, who's kind of waged like a bit of a civil war with the other Aiel, and specifically against Rand. So this is Rand kind of picking up the pieces here, and that whole aspect of it is pretty good. This is just an opportunity for characters to interact with each other. There's a lot of strategy and battle planning involved, and there's just a lot of that, which I liked. One thing I really liked in this book that I was surprised about, because this is one thing I always complain about in the Wheel of Time, is the dynamics. They actually stood out in this book. I really, really loved the relationship between Rand and Moiraine in this book. Most mentor roles, it's pretty standard. It's like, oh, there's this young apprentice, mentor teaches them the magic system and whatnot. But with Rand, there's a level of respect there, but also there's this huge wall between them. Moiraine is someone Rand doesn't trust, right? And not only that, she can't even teach him in the magic system he uses because of the differences between Saida and Saidin. But she's still a mentor to him, not magically, but politically. And she teaches him, I guess, because she comes from Kirhian, the great game, and how to maneuver as a political figure. And that whole aspect is great. I loved Moiraine in this book. This is like my favorite I've seen of Moiraine, and especially the impact some of the changes in their dynamics makes. Like, their dynamic is shifting a lot in this book, and I love to see it, and it has a great impact. So yeah, Moiraine was great in this book. Another dynamic I love was, of course, Avienda and Rand. I love how quirky and wholesome this is. I love how she's kind of teaching him, he's acting as a spy, but as well as teaching him about the Aiel culture. And this is really strange, it's a really strange culture. So Rand is kind of like this fish out of water kind of thing here going on. It's hilarious, it's very, very funny. It's a great, wholesome dynamic that I really loved. Rand is definitely becoming a more interesting protagonist. What I liked here is that the more political power he gets, the more influence he has, the stronger he gets in his power, the more arrogant he becomes. Like, he's becoming kind of an arrogant person, and he's kind of getting a bit full of his head, and I like seeing those aspects of him. With Egwene, we mostly get her interacting with the other wise ones. It's good stuff. It's just developing Talan and Riod. This acts as kind of a medium for her to communicate with the other characters like Nynaeve and Elaine. We don't get too much Egwene here, but what we get is just standard stuff, her learning her powers, learning about Talan and Riod. What we do get with Mat here is, once again, like Egwene, it's just him developing his powers, getting a greater understanding of his abilities. And like I said before, his is my favorite power. Like, I really like Mat's powers and his abilities. Later on in the book, we get some pretty good development with Mat that I didn't expect. Overall, Rand and Egwene, Moiraine, Mat, their whole storyline, I liked it so far. It's a lot of just a lot of characters talking with each other, just a lot of developing their abilities and a lot of internal conflicts. Now let's talk about the second main storyline, and that's Nynaeve and Elena. It Okay, now let's get into the spoilers. So in the beginning, we get that awesome fight scene with them dog friend dogs, them evil doggies, and Rand uses Balefire, and we find out that Balefire is OP as hell. Like, oh my god, the concept for Balefire is amazing. So it's like this big ball of fire, but when you destroy something, you destroy it like a few seconds or even minutes behind. It destroys it back in time. So like, how the hell do I describe this? Let's say some guy, right, is about to stab someone, right? And then you're like, oh no, he's about to stab someone. You're getting your balefire ready. He stabs that person. But as soon as he stabs that person, you shoot your balefire at him. He just evaporates. He just disappears. But also the knife in the person is no longer there because you killed the guy right then. And essentially you killed him a few seconds before he killed the first. It's so confusing. It's pretty simple to understand. Jordan describes it better than I can. But balefire is awesome. And once we learn more of that, it's like cool. Another thing we learn about is Mat's medallion. And I'm like, hold up. What? Essentially, it blocks off Cider. So Aes Sedai's cannot touch Mat as long as he wears this medallion. As long as it touches his skin, Cider is ineffective to him. I do understand that, they could weave air and pick up a rock and hit it at him, but they literally can't weave air at him. Why isn't anyone making a bigger deal of that? I mean, he essentially has like an invincibility armor on him. Like, I mean, I know they're going after all these different ter'angreals, but I'm like, that's the ter'angreal I would focus on, because that's pretty OP. With Moiraine, that scene where she asks Rand, she says, please. What? What? Because we're not used to seeing Moiraine like this. This is so great because it's like it adds humanity to her and it shows the enormity of the situation right now. But it's still Moiraine being a Machiavellian. She's still manipulating Rand like this. She's doing whatever she can to get on his side, to be on his side, to influence him. It's great. It's great. Moiraine's such a great character. This is exactly how I want my mentor figures to be written. Now let's talk about Best Girl Avienda. Obviously, I just love her interactions with Rand. This is one of the few love interests, the tens of love interests he has. This is the only one I can get behind. And you know that scene where Avienda runs away naked and then Rand has to save her from the ice pool, and then it's that whole setup you see all the time, right? And then when they get with each other, normally I would just be like, yeah, whatever. But this time I was like, yes, Randolph Thor, yes, this is the only good decision you've made. Avienda, best girl. Avienda, best girl. I'd say it. But there's a Wheel of Time romance that I actually like. Mat. We get some more chapters with him later on in the later half. In the beginning, it's mostly him and this new not love interest, this friends with benefit person called Melindra. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. But at least it's something interesting because she's a dark friend. It's revealed at the end when she tried to attack him. And it's like, whoa, dark friends are everywhere, not just the Aes Sedai, but in the Aiel as well. So, I mean, if you're going to reveal dark friends within the Aiel, that's a pretty cool way to do it. I love how there's this amazing chapter where they are going off, they're in Kerhian and they're about to go after the Shaido who have settled there. Obviously, Mat has the memories of the old blood, of Manetheren, of all the old commanders and right now, and all that knowledge is within him. And he kind of leads the charge here. He wanted to be Mat Cawthorn and just leave and take no responsibility, but there's this innate part of him that wants to fight with them because he has all this knowledge and he's a better battle commander than anyone else there. And that was great to see. What this leads to is that Mat was the person who ended up facing Couladin. What's kind of weird is that they're like, okay, yeah, we're gonna charge to battle. We're gonna see Mat fight Couladin. We're gonna see this epic battle, and we don't. It's so weird because in the next chapter it's like Couladin's dead. Mat killed him, and like, did I miss a chapter or something? On the one hand, I'm not complaining about this too much because the priority here is Mat's development. It's not necessarily about seeing a fight scene. That I can appreciate. Although they did build Couladin up as a major threat, and it kind of feels a little unsatisfying that we didn't see the actual battle. Although, once again, I do understand it's all about the strategy. I love battle strategy. I love reading battle strategy, which makes me even more interested in Matt Hawthorne and this whole part of the story. I respect the decision for Jordan to focus on the strategy rather than the actual fight itself. And once again, the priority was Matt's development. Again, with the antagonists, is that this entire time we're set out to face against Samael in Ilion, because we had that amazing battle scene near the end, not near the end-ish of the book, where I think it is Samael who's striking down lightning everywhere, right? So he's a constant presence throughout. But at the end, they kind of do a switcheroo, and it's like, nope, we're going to go after Ravin instead. Once again, well-written fight scenes between Rand and Ravin. It's just an abrupt switcheroo, and this is the 5th time we're seeing Rand face a Forsaken. 5th time. Like, I just want something else. No matter how well it is written, I want something else. Also, with Rand, I forgot to mention is Asmodean, who's kind of teaching him more of Sidon. Yeah, sure, I liked it. I really don't have much opinions about this, if I'm being honest with you. Lewis Theron, who's kind of emerging within his mind, he's kind of going slightly crazy, but the more political influence Rand has, the more power he gains, the more arrogant he becomes. Rand, it's his internal struggles that were very interesting to me in this book. Nynaeve and Elaine's. We get some pretty cool chapters here with them becoming comatose after being tricked by that woman who we thought was an ally of the Aes Sedai, but turns out she's working for the White Tower. But after that, man, the setting for their storyline. So their storyline mostly focuses on them coming to contact with this hero of the ages called Burgit, I think. We've seen her before, and they can only contact her through Talar and Riod. And with them, Moghedien's also a threat in Talar and Riod. We see Burgit come into the real world after this big conflict with Moghedien. And that whole aspect with Moghedien and Nynaeve's conflict, I loved. Moghedien's this constant threat. Not physically, but mentally. She's always in Nynaeve's mind, and this kind of changes it. It makes her more paranoid, it makes her more prone to emotional outbursts. We're seeing people like Egwene, like one chapter where Egwene just puts Nynaeve in her place, and Elaine also, because we always see Nynaeve as like the person who's always in control of the room, right? Who's always the person shouting at someone else. And now we're seeing people shout at her, and you're like, whoa, like Nynaeve's like really like vulnerable right now. And seeing that vulnerability, it adds so much depth to her. And seeing her confront Moghedien at the end, confront not just this Forsaken but her fears, that was amazing stuff. I really loved Nynaeve's internal conflict here with Moghedien. I love the character of Nynaeve in this book. However, it's the setting she is in within that I disliked. That menagerie, that circus thing, oh my god, that was so freaking boring. We were in this stupid circus for way too long. The person who led this circus I hate him. They're not interesting characters. None of the side characters are as interesting as, let's say, Eganin from the previous book. Jordan does the same thing. There's this ex-Xing woman here who is, I barely even remember her name, but not nearly as well developed as Eganin was as a side character. Sure, there was some fun stuff here and there with Elaine performing in a circus. Why did we spend so much time in this circus? Perrin wasn't in this book. He just dipped. I understand this because in the end of book 4, how can Perrin feasibly come into the fold of the other peoples of like Rand's main storyline organically? So it's like, this one I understand why Perrin took a gap. I kind of appreciate when authors don't force a character to have a pointless storyline just so they can make an appearance in the book. But it doesn't excuse the fact that instead of having perspectives from different characters, we get so much emphasis on this menagerie. I would have rather have had Nynaeve and Elaine just reach Saladar and we like halfway through the book and we don't see them till like the ending of the book or the next book. I just did not need this menagerie thing at all. It wasted so much time. It hurt the book for me. It hurt what was an otherwise really solid entry. This is the single thing that really just made me draw back from this book from praising it further. The one battle that I really enjoyed was that Lanfit battle. That was awesome. So Lanfit, being the crazy ex-girlfriend that she is, freaks out when she finds out about Rand and Avienda. and we see Moraine do the sacrifice play and kind of not kill her, but take her through an Angry Owl portal. And obviously, Moraine, by the way, I don't believe for 1 second Moraine is dead. If you know the rule, if there's no body, she ain't dead. But you very much do feel that her supposed death really impacted all the other characters. Even someone like Rand, who just wasn't very close with Moraine and who didn't even trust Moraine that much, you can see it affect him as well. And that was great to see. Once again, Moraine. I really love Moraine in this book. Now, I want to catch up with some of the other side characters who are important, not nearly as this other storylines. They're kind of this secondary storylines that are happening here that I want to quickly go over. Morghese, after escaping from Ravin, she has her own crew with her, and she's getting involved with the White Cloaks. The storyline doesn't move much farther. I don't have much opinions on it, but we get more of it in the next books. Now, I completely forgot to mention Schwann Sanch. I hope I'm saying that right. Schwann Sanch and Min's storyline from the previous book. So, okay, catch up. Schwann has been disposed of the Amaranth Sea, and she has been stilled, and she has escaped with Min and Lian, her keeper, as well. Now we get more of them here. I really love Schwann. I think she might be my favorite character. I love seeing characters who are at the top, and then within one day, one night, all the way at the bottom. What I love about Schwann is that she doesn't stop there. She will always find something to do to make her relevant. And even having no power at all, being taken away of all her power, like political and literal physical power, like her magical power, she's still the person she still has this authority about her that I love. If we're good at abandoned parent for this book, I would have rather have had more Min, Schwann, and Lian. Like, you could have cut out that menagerie stuff and have more Schwann, Min, and Lian. Also, Lian is an actual character now, so now that she's stilled, she's using some of the lessons she's learned from her childhood as a Domani woman, because they're known for like flirting and to get what they want. It was cool seeing Lian become a well-defined character as well. And once they reach Salada, I love how the Aes Sedai are like instantly, the dynamics have completely shifted with her and the Aes Sedai. She used to be their leader, and now she's like this person serving for Gareth Bryan, like washing his clothes and stuff. It doesn't stop her from wanting to be an important player in the threat right now. And I love seeing that. I love seeing characters who are just at rock bottom, but they still try to make themselves relevant. They still try to find some way to do something, right? So yeah, like so far, honestly, I think Schwann Sanch might be my favorite character so far, along with Moraine. I love those two. And also Avienda's great, and Rand becoming a much more interesting protagonist, and getting some more further development with Egwene and Mat's powers. Greater development. We're seeing the story move forward. Well-written fight scenes, although once again abrupt climaxes. Like, not abrupt, but just the whole switcheroo thing I wasn't a fan of. I would give this an 8 out of 10, but honestly I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10 simply because of that menagerie. I know normally one storyline, one aspect wouldn't really taint my love for a book this much, but that menagerie really hurt it, and it's so frustrating because it hurt what was an otherwise really solid entry. But so far, 7.5 out of 10 for The Fires of Heaven. Also, Fires of Heaven, it's a badass title. I really love that title. In fact, all of the titles are kind of really good. Jordan knows how to make his titles. I'll give him props for that. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I'm sorry I'm so quiet and low energy right now. The sun is out and I'm just sweating, if you can't tell. I'm just so low energy right now. I'm sorry this wasn't an interesting video, but I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.